Shalom. So, sorry I'm late. I am going to try something a little bit different. So, I am using my standing desk and standing because I don't want to be 500 pounds. um, and maybe this will help, or maybe it will make me grumpy. We'll see. um, we are doing Genesis 38 today, and it's a pretty short chapter, so hopefully won't be too bad. 38, right? Let me just double check that I did. Oops, I think I did the wrong one. This should be 39. Yes, I did the wrong one. So, 39. That's what I thought. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to have to change the title and stuff later. Okay, sorry about that, people. So, 39. And that should be... If I had looked, I would have noticed. Okay. Now, excuse me, Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. Okay. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. Chabad. Now Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, Pharaoh's chamberlain, chief of the slaughterers, an Egyptian man, purchased him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. Okay. Ve-Yosef hurad Mitzrayma, ve-yiknehu Potiphar, Sris Paro, Sar ha-Tebachim, Ish Mitzri, Miad ha-Ishmaelim, Asher horidu hu Shama. Okay. So, and Joseph, Hurad. So this is the Hufal, which is a binyan we don't see very often. It is the passive of the causative. So, was brought down of Loredet is Yudresh Dalet. Yeah. Although I do have to say, I mean, the infinitive is Loredet, which, again, I think this is one of those two-letter roots that's sometimes used with three letters, and we've seen a bunch of those. So he had been caused to go down, right? So anytime we're going to Israel, or anytime we're going towards Jerusalem or to Israel, we are always aliyah, going up. And anytime we're leaving Israel, leaving Jerusalem, leaving Israel, or going to Egypt from anywhere else, it's always going down. Okay? Mitzrayma, the hey at the end is the directional hey. Veyiknehu, right? So this is koneh, which is to acquire, and generally how we refer to money transactions. So kinyan. in modern Hebrew, a kanyon is a mall, shopping mall. Potiphar sris paro. So they're translating this in many different ways. I usually translate this as a eunuch, and yep, probably of foreign origin. Um, in Arabic, well, apparently in Aramaic, sarsa is a cook. In Arabic, it means to be impotent. Yeah, in rabbinic Hebrew, lahasris means to sterilize an animal, or a person actually. Uh, Arabic is an Aramaic loan word, so if it, I guess it's possible that it became. No, it says from an unused root, meaning to castrate a eunuch. Compare Rav Saris. Yeah. I don't know if it's ever used. It doesn't appear to ever be used as a verb in the Bible itself. So it might be that it later became associated with castration. But I just I translate it as eunuch, partially because in rabbinic Hebrew, it it's a it refers also to things like a castrated animal. So, okay, Saris Paro, Sar Ha Tebachim, and yes, I guess you could make an argument between Sin Resh Resh, which is to rule, right? Srara is rulership, and Sar is sometimes translated captain, sometimes translated as prince, chieftain. So however you want to do that. Ha Tebachim, and Tebach, the root is really slaughter or to butcher, right? And so I've seen arguments that the chief of the guards was called that, possibly because it was also the person who basically kept kind of like a treasurer of sorts for food, that type of thing. But mitbach in modern Hebrew is a kitchen, place for tabach, right, for butchering meat and stuff. Ish Mitzri, an Egyptian man. Miyad ha-Ishmaelim, from the hands of the Ishmaelites. Asher horiduhu, and this is now the Hefil. So hufal is the passive. If you remember the menorah that we make of the 7 binyanim, right? So there's the reflexive in the middle, hitpa'el, and then there's the passive and the active forms of the 3 binyanim, the kal or simple, the which has its which has the nifal as the passive, and then PL is the intensive, and that has a passive of pual. Let me just check to make sure I'm not. Yeah, pual, and then hefil has its passive. Hefil is the causative, and it has its passive hufal, and of course hitpa'el is the reflexive. So hofal, right? Hurad is the passive of Horid, which usually has a chirik. This is written actually double bechisaron. Usually, this horiduhu would not be written with a kubutz. It would be written with a shuruk, but it is written with a kubutz here. So it is written bechisaron. Shama, and again the hey at the end is the directional hey. Okay, hope all of that is clear. If you have questions, hello Harry, how you doing? If you have questions, please feel free to ask. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. Ish Masliach. This is the name of many a synagogue. And he was in the house of his Egyptian master, the Egyptian. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. And the Hebrew is Veyehi Havaya et Yosef Veyehi Ish Matzliach Veyehi Bebeit Adonav Hamitzri. I once had the opportunity to meet the person who is generally considered the foremost living Kabbalist in the world, Chacham Yaakov Moshe Hillel, and the bracha that he gave to each of us was, you should be a matzliach, you should be successful. And so I remember that. And there's, again, there's Sidurim, prayer books named Ish Matzliach, many synagogues named Matzliach. Hatzlacha is something a lot of people value very much in Judaism. Anyway, so, and it was Havaya, right? So this is the Tetragrammaton, et Yosef, and here the et is not a direct object marker, it is the preposition with, and you can only tell the difference contextually. So here it's et is with. Veyehi ish amatzliach, so we have a construct between man and hatzlacha, right? And yeah, this is the hefil participle, so which turns into really a noun kind of here. Veyehi bebeit adonav hamitzri, and he was in the house of his master. That is masculine singular. Adonav, if it was plural, would be. Trying to think how Adonav would be plural. Not sure. Let me see if I can. So, Adonav. Yeah, that's this one. I am not sure how you would say that if it was in the plural as opposed to the singular. Gonna have to leave that as tzarech iyun. Yeah, I'm not sure. Their morphology is definitely saying that it's in this no, masculine plural construct. So it's his masters, Adonav. That's what I thought. So why aren't they translating it masters? Oh, it's also in the singular, Hamitzri. His masters, the Egyptian, in the singular. That's a strange one right there. I wonder if the Radak says anything. Let me see. Genesis 39:2. So the commentary that is known for being the most oh, come on, load. That's known to be the most grammatical is the Radak. Let me see if the Radak says anything. Radak. He was successful at yeah, that's not saying anything about Adonav. Rashi doesn't say anything. Abarbanel? And yes, I mean, apparently, the... okay, here. Moreover, since he... yeah, not... He doesn't seem to be a Sforno, maybe? Maybe I'm the only one who has this question? Hiya. Come on. Hey, Ben. I thought maybe a tsere vowel was for plural. Oh, and this is a Adonev? No, that I don't think so. That when there was a possessive. I'm not sure. So this is a kamatz there. I'm not very good with the vocalizations, and especially when we're talking about cantillated text, the vocalizations change even more. There it's Ishmetzliach. Yeah, I mean, if it was in the plural, then you would kind of expect it to be Mitzrim, not... Yeah, because, again, Shem Adnut, it makes me wonder if there isn't some sort of message here. Okay, this is obviously not the pshat. The pshat is that the simple meaning is obviously that it's talking about a single master, but I could leave this with tzarech ion. So let's keep on going. Okay, verse 3. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand, to be a success. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, and his master saw that the Lord was with him, and whatever he, Joseph, that's interesting, did the Lord made prosper in his hand. Yeah, so they're being very clear in which person is being referred to by using parentheses there. Okay, V'ya'ar Adonav, again, his master, ki havaya ito, was with him. And so here it's a little easier to tell that we are talking about the preposition with and not the direct object marker, because when it is the preposition, it is ito, and when it is the direct object marker, it is oto. Okay? V'chol asher hu oseh havaya matzliach beyado. And everything which he does in the present tense, right? Havaya matzliach, God, again in the present tense, causes to prosper or to have success. Again, this word hatzlaha, this is in the hefil, in the causative, be yado, in his hand, and that's singular hand. Okay, verse 4. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and that he had, and all that he had, he put under his authority or in his hand. Joseph found favor in his eyes. Please let me know if the sound is too low. And became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. And Joseph found favor in his eyes, and he, that is Joseph, served him, and he, Potiphar, appointed him over his house, and all he had he gave into his hand. Thank you, Ben. Vayimtza Yosef hen be'enav vayisharet oto vayafkidehu al beito v'chol yesh lo natan beyado. It's an interesting way of phrasing things. So vayimtza, right? So was found, matzah, to find, and limtzo chen, to find favor. This is a common phrase in biblical Hebrew. Yona matzah hen is a very famous the dove found favor is a very famous verse, I believe, from Genesis. Be'enav, right? To find favor in somebody's, literally, eyes, in their sight. Right? Be'enav. Ve'yisharet oto. So, shirut is service. In modern Hebrew, they call army service shirut. National service, shirut le'umi. Mesharet is somebody who serves. It is slightly different from service as in avodah, which is work and is more, usually when you talk about an eved, you're talking about a slave relationship more than mesharet is a servant, probably a little bit of a higher status. Oto, so here it's the direct object marker, oto. V'yafkidehu, again, there's no yud there, but it's the hefil. It's a chirik chazer. So pakad is sometimes translated as to remember, right? It says Hashem pakad et Sarah, right? God remembered Sarah when she was made fertile. I usually try to translate it something like a point. So epikadon is like an appointment or something that you have been given charge over, right? So a tafkid in modern Hebrew is kind of like a mission kind of thing, right? Yeah. So Ben also appoint, right? Vayafkidehu, and he appointed him al beito. So this is preposition with the ayin on upon his house. V'chol yeshlo, and everything that existed to him. That's basically what it's saying. V'chol yeshlo, everything that there was to him that he had. Natan beyado, gave in his hand, or put in his hand. Okay, verse 5. So it was from the time that he had made him overseer of his house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. From the time he put him in charge of his household, of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. Now it came to pass that since he had appointed him over his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the house of the Egyptian for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was in all that he had, in the house and in the field. Veyehi ma'az hifkid oto bebeito ve'al kol asher yesh lo, vayivarech Havaya et beit hamitzri biglal Yosef, vayehi birkat Havaya bechol asher yesh lo babayit uvasadeh. Interesting. So this is very much copying the same language as we had before. As I keep on saying, in Hebrew, poetic language is not rhyming, it is alliterative. So using the same words over and over again, using the same sounds over and over again, that's oftentimes when the same word, you'll see word choice is actually because of poetry, right? Similar sounding words. So, and it was me'az hifkidoto. So prepositional mem, as is an adverb, so, I guess, or then, yeah. Hifkid oto, right? He appointed him, again, like we had before. Be beito, in his house. Ve'al kol asher yeshlo. So this is the preposition with the ayin. So upon all that there was to him, right? Using similar language as previous verse. Vayivarech Havaya. So the Tetragrammaton blessed et beit hamitzri, the house of the Egyptian, biglal Yosef. And glal is, so it actually means round, right? So golel is, or a gal is actually a wave. Microwave oven is called a mikrogal in modern Hebrew. But biglal, right, is on account of, and in more modern language, sometimes a glal is called a cause, right? When you're trying to talk about causation, but biglal Yosef, on account of, and yeah, that's something that's made it to modern Hebrew. So if you want to say because of something, you say biglal ma, right? Why? Biglal ma. Biglal ze, because of this. Vayehi, and it was birkat Havaya. So this is bracha, a blessing, in construct form with the Tetragrammaton. Bechol asher yeshlo, and again it's using that same yeshlo, there was to him, in everything that was to him. Ba bayit, in the house, uva sadeh, and in the field. And there are the articles are there in the vocalizations. Yeah, and I'll just note in Hebrew, like in English we say dogs are cute. In Hebrew we would say dog is cute. So sometimes when you're talking in the singular, you're actually talking about the general concept. So in the house and in the field seems for me it seems like it's talking more generally than we might think in the English. Okay, verse 6. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, care, and he did not know what he had except for the bread, food, which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. So he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew nothing about what was with him except the bread that he ate. And Joseph had handsome features and a beautiful complexion. Vayazov kol asher lo beyad Yosef velo yada ito me'uma ki im halechem asher hu ochel veyehi Yosef yefet toar veyefet mar'eh. Okay, so Vayazov, Ein Zayin Bet, it means to leave, right? And if you want to tell one of your kids to leave another one of your kids alone, you say Azovoto, leave him alone. Kol Asher Lo Biyad, so he left, he gave over, right? Everything that was his, Asher Lo, Beyad Yosef, in the hands of Yosef, Velo Yada Ito Me'uma, a very interesting way of putting it. And he did not know, so this is the intimate form of knowledge, Ito, with himself, really, Me'uma. So me'uma, anything. I don't know how many times that's used in the Bible. I think it is used a few times. Yeah, quite a few times actually. 32 times in the Bible. This is actually, it's used several times in this chapter and the next chapter. So first time used in Genesis 22. Don't do anything to him. Ki'im, and this is how in Hebrew you say except. Literally, ki is for or because, and im is if, but here, ki'im together basically is always except. Ha-lechem, the lechem, which you can translate as food, generally usually translated as bread. I've even seen the King James translated as meat, I believe. Asher hu ochel, which he eats. It is in the present tense. Ochel is to consume or eat. Veyehi Yosef yefet toar v'yefet mar'eh. So this is very interesting language. Um, Yefet means um, beautiful. Sometimes it can mean fine or good. Um, in Eshet Chayil, we say Sheker Hayofi. Um, Beauty is false. So Sheker Hayofi, and this is the same word Yefeh. Um, Yafat Toar, right? So the Eshet Yafat Toar is the commandments regarding a man at war who sees um, a woman of beautiful appearance. So the Bible refers to her as Eshet Yafat Toar, and there are special rules about how you are to treat her. Ve'yefet mar'eh. So mar'eh comes from the word ro'eh, to see. Mar'eh is to show. So beautiful in appearance. Yeah, Toar. Not sure how many times it shows up. 15 times in the Bible from Ta'ar, outline. Oh, that's used a few times, 7 times. A primitive root to delineate, reflex, to extend, be drawn out. Perhaps akin to tour. Yeah. So, beautiful of form or handsome of form, and handsome in appearance. Yafat Toar is external beauty. Well, so is Yafat Mar'eh. So, verse 7. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast, literally lifted up her eyes toward, longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, lie with me. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Now it came to pass after these events that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Joseph, and she said, lie with me. V'yehi achar hadavarim ha'ele v'tisa eshet adonav et eineha el Yosef v'tomer shechva imi. And it was after these things, and v'tisa eshet adonav. So tisa means literally to raise, but raising your eyes, looking up, is a common way of saying noticing things in Hebrew. So v'tisa et eineha, she raised her eyes, she noticed. El Yosef, preposition with an aleph. Vatomer, and she said, Shechva imi. And the hey at the end is not the third person feminine singular. It's the cohortative, I would say. Shachav is to literally to lie down, but it definitely has a sexual connotation. And imi, with me, im with the ayin, meaning with. Okay. Verse 8. But he refused and said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. But he refused. And he said to his master's wife, "Behold, with me my master knows nothing about anything in the house, and all he has given into my hand." V'yima'en v'yomer el eshet adonav, hen adoni lo yada iti ma babait, v'chol asher yesh lo natan beyadi. So v'yima'en, and he refused. Lama'en is to refuse. Mem aleph nun. Not sure how many times it's used in the Bible, but it is to refuse. Looks actually quite a few. 41 times in the Bible. Yeah. Vayomer, and he said, El eshet adonav, to the wife, it's in the construct form with adonav, his master. Hen can be translated behold. Oftentimes I translate it as yes. I guess behold is fine here. It is an interjection. Hine is oftentimes translated as behold. Hen adoni, my master, and this is definitely in the singular. Lo yada iti, does not know with me. Concerning me, okay, I guess. Ma babayit, what is in the house? So what is going on in the house, really? Ma babayit, what is in the house? And there is the article in the vocalizations there. V'chol asher yeshlo, and everything which exists to him, yeshlo, natan beyadi, he gave or he appointed, committed into my hand. Verse 9. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me, but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? In this house there is no one greater than I, and he has not withheld anything from me except you, insofar as you are his wife. Now, how can I commit this great evil and sin against a God? Einenu gadol babayit hazeh mimeni velo chashach. Interesting. Lo chashach mimeni me'uma ki im otach ba'asher at ishto ve'ech e'aseh hara'ah hagedolah hazot ve'chatati le'elokim. Interesting. So, einenu gadol. Interesting way of putting it. Ein means there is not, but here it's einenu. And they're saying third person masculine singular. Einenu is first person plural, I thought. Not sure why they're saying einenu is eineni is I am not. Einena is there is not. Einenu, I would think, is there is not with us. Well, okay, so Genesis 37:30. Vayomer hayeled einenu. The son, the boy is not here. Seems to me, I don't know why they're saying it's third person masculine. It doesn't matter. It's the same, really. There is not, no matter how you put it. Gadol babayit hazeh, greater in this house, very specifically this house. Mimeni, from me, than I, mimeni. Velo chashach mimeni me'uma. So, interesting way of putting it. Choshech actually means dark. Oh, it's chasach, not chashach. Sorry. So chashach would have been dark. Chasach with a sin. Late Hebrew chasach with a samech, also in Aramaic. Interesting. It's actually used quite a few times in the Bible. 27 times. So this is, I was misreading it as chashach. So they're actually saying that it is related to chashach, and we do kind of say that words with shin and sin must have some form of relationship, but we do treat them as different words. And here it's chasach instead of chashach. And chashach, since it's a very common word, I just kind of assumed it was chashach here. I just noticed that no, it's het sin chaf, to refuse or to keep back. Mimeni me'uma, from me anything. Ki im otach, except for you. Ba'asher, in that at ishto, you are his wife. So the pronoun is being used as the verb to be, which is sometimes done in Hebrew, especially in the present tense. Ve'ech e'eseh hara'ah hagedolah hazot. And how can I do this greatly evil thing, right? So lots of hays, lots of articles here. This very bad thing, hara'ah hagedolah. So ra'ah is the same word as the tree of good and evil, right? Etz dat tov vera, and gedolah, right? Great. Hazot, this. And because ra'ah is feminine, zot is in the feminine. Vechatati le'elokim, and I would sin against God, which, I mean, you could also translate this against the gods, because it is a plural, but generally I would say it is that, no, I would read this as God, capital God. Okay. Verse 10. So it was as she spoke to Joseph day by day that he did not heed her, to lie with her or be with her. And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Now it came about when she spoke to Joseph day in and day out that he did not obey her to lie beside her and to be with her. Veyehi kedabrah el Yosef yom yom velo shama eleha lishkav etzla lihyot ima. Interesting ways of putting it. So we have aspirated hays here, and 3 of them actually. And what the aspirated hay, which you see because of the dagesh, tells you is that this is the possessive hey at the end, right? Feminine possessive, right? So, veyehi kedabra, and it was that davar, right? Daber is to speak. Dabra is her speaking, right? As she spoke. El Yosef, preposition to Aleph. Yom Yom, so day by day, right? Yom Yom. Velo Shama Eleha, he did not listen to her, hearken to her. Shin Mem Ayin. I don't know how often that's used with the preposition El with the Aleph. Shama Eleha. Lishkav etzla, to lie beside her. Usually it's lishkov et or im, but here it's etzel, which I think is related to the word tel, which means shade, shadow. But yeah, etzla, and actually, so the word that is usually translated as rib is tzala, with an ayin, in Genesis. Lihyot imah, to be with her, preposition with the ayin, im, with. Okay, verse 11. But it happened after this time, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. Now it came, and it came about on a certain day that he came to the house to do his work, and none of the people of the house were there in the house. And apparently this is discussed in the Talmud. You can see there. Vayehi kehayom hazeh. Interesting way of putting it. Vayavo habaita la'asot melachto. Ve'ein ish me'anshe habayit sham babayit. Interesting. Ve'yehi kahayom hazeh, and it was like a day such as this. In fact, if I remember correctly, this is the exact same, because I was just looking at the book of Esther, and it says La'et kazot. No, so it's a little bit different, but kahayom hazeh, like, well, kind of. It says La'et kazot in the book of Esther, like this time. But it's strangely in the present tense. A day such as this. Vayavo habaita, and he came to the house. That hey at the end is the directional hey, right? So he came into the house. La'asot melachto, to do his work, and melacha is particularly productive work, which we are forbidden to do on the Sabbath. So whenever it talks about work on the Sabbath, it doesn't say avodah, which is one of the ways we say work, but malacha, which is particularly productive work, and may not be a native Hebrew root, since it really has. So the question is, because it has 4 roots, right? And one of them is the silent aleph. And there's a lot of words which variously use the exact same three radicals. The aleph may have been used to distinguish between some of the various roots, uses of words with the exact same root. So, whatever you want to do with a melacha, but melacha is what's used in Genesis, referring to God's work during the 6 days of the creation. Ve'ein ish me'anshe habayit sham babayit. And there is not, ein ish, there's nobody, me'anshe habayit, from the men of the house. And as usual, the hey goes on so the article goes on the last word of the construct chain, anshe bait. Sham babayit, there in the house. And yeah, I guess sham is kind of being used as a verb to be in that verse. Verse 12. That she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. She caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. So she grabbed him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and went outside. V'titfesehu bebigdo לאמור שכבה עמי ויעזוב בגדו בידה וינס ויצא החוצה. Interesting. Okay. So ותתפסהו, so the root here is tafas, taf pei sin, which means to grab. And so this isn't hitpael. The first radical is a taf, and the reason why it's tit fesehu and not yit fesehu is because it's in the feminine. Be bigdo, by his beged, which is a clothing, cloth, right? Be bigdo, by his garment. Le'emor, saying, Shichva imi, again, the hey, I would say, is the cohortive there. So, lie with me. Ve'ya'azov, and just like we had before, Potiphar leaving all his, everything he had, right, in Yosef's hands. Yosef leaves his beged, bigdo, beyadah. So again, aspirated hey, in her hand. Veyanas veyatse hachutza. So, and vayanas, he nose can, so nun samech hey is to travel. Nun vav samech is to flee. And I do think that these two roots are in fact from the same two-letter root, nun samech. So whether or not you want to associate those two, but Viyanusu, and they escaped. Trying to remember where else in the Bible I have noticed that. So the first time it's used is, Viyanusu. There we go. In Genesis 14:10, Viyanusu. Yeah. Okay. V'yetze, and he went out, letzet, right, to go out. He went out. Hachutza, so towards the outside, right? So again, this is the directional hey at the end. Chutz means outside. Hachutza means towards the outside. So outside. Okay, verse 13. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, when she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, now it happened when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had fled outside, Veyehi kirotah ki azav bigdo beyadah v'yanas hachutza, using very similar language to what we had before, right? And it was when she saw, kirotah, right? So prepositional chaf, ra'ot is the infinitive of to see, and there's the aspirated hey to say her, right? Seeing. Ki azav bigdo, that he left his beget, beyadah, again aspirated hey, in her hand, v'yanas, and he had fled, hachutza, towards the outside. Verse 14, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, see, he has brought in to us a Hebrew to mock us, or laugh at us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. She called her household servants. Look, she said to them, this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. That she called to the people of her house, and she spoke to them, saying, look, he brought us a Hebrew man to mock us. He came to lie with me, but I called loudly. V'tikra l'anshe beitah v'tomer lahem le'emor ru'u hevi lanu ish ivri letzachek banu. Ba elai lishkav imi va'ekra bekol gadol. So she called to the people of her house, anshe beitah, again with the aspirated hey, v'tomer lahem, and she said to them, le'emor, saying, re'u, this is the command form, a masculine plural, look, hevi lanu, he, so this is the he fell, it's the causative of bo, to come. So he caused to come, or to brought, or he brought. I guess she's talking about Potiphar. Lanu, to us, ish ivri, a Hebrew man. Letzachek banu. So this is the same root as Yitzchak, to laugh, right? Isaac, and everything that went on there with his name. So this is the same root. Letzachek banu. To mock us, to laugh at us. Ba elai, he came to me, preposition with the aleph. Lishkavimi, again, to lie down with her, right? Imi, with the ayin. Va'ekra, and I called, or I called out, however you want to translate that. Koreh means to read or to call. Bekol gadol, in a loud voice, in a large, literally large voice. Aloud in modern Hebrew is kol ram, high voice. Okay, verse 15. And it happened when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. And it happened that when he heard that I raised my voice and called out, he left his garment beside me, and he fled and went outside. Veyehi keshom'o, and yeah, that is actually a kamatz katan. I don't know how I know that, but I do. I'm pretty sure it's kamatz katan. Let me check. 39:15. Yeah, shom'o. It is with a kamatz katan. I don't know how I know that, but I do know that. Okay. Keshom'o ki harimoti koli va'ekra v'ya'azov bigdo etzli v'yanas v'yatze hachutza. Okay, so it was that when he heard ki harimoti, that I caused to go high, right? Rum is high, and this is the hefil, the causative of it, written with a cholam chaser. Koli, my voice, written b'milui, if you're paying attention. Va'ekra, and I called. Vayazov, again, he left. Bigdo etzli, by me, right, with me. Vayanos, and he fled. Vayetze hachutza, and he went towards the outside, using similar words over and over again. Verse 16. So she kept his garment with her until his master came home. She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. So she left his garment beside her until his master came home. V'tanach bigdo etzlah ad bo adonav el beito. So tanach, right? The root here is noach, to rest, and this is the causative of to cause, to rest or to lay. Bigdo etzlah, again aspirated hey, so his garment by her. Ad bo adonav, until his master came, right? El beito, to his house. Preposition with the aleph. Verse 17. Then she spoke to him with words like these, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought us to us came in to mock me. Then she told him this story, that Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. And she told him the same thing, saying, the Hebrew slave that you brought to us came to me to mock me. V'tedaber elav kedvarim ha'ele le'emor ba'elai ha'eved ha'ivri asher heveta lanu letzachek bi. So, and she spoke, and we do say that, daber is always in the intensive, almost always in the intensive PL, and omer is almost always in the kal. So we usually say that daber is a little bit more harsh than omer speaking. So however you want to distinguish between those, but this is tedaber, and it is in the PL, it is in the intensive. Elav, to him, again with the aleph. Kadavarim ha'ele, like these things or like these words. Such things. Le'emor, saying, ba'elai, came to me, ha'eved ha'ivri, the Hebrew servant or slave, however you want to translate that. Asher heveta lanu, which you brought to us. So this is the hefil, heveta. You caused to come, or you brought lanu upon us. Letzachek bi. Again, to mock or to laugh at us. Me, actually. Be is a first person common singular. Verse 18. So it happened, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. And it happened when I raised my voice and called out that he left his garment beside me and fled outside. Vayehi kaharimi koli va'ekra vayazov bigdo etzli v'yanas hachutza. Very similar language to what we had before. And it was kaharimi, in that I was causing to be uplifted, right? That's the harimi koli, that I, in my raising of my voice. Va'ekra, and I called out, v'yazov bigdo etzli, and he left his clothing beside me. V'yanas hachutza, and he went and he fled to the outside. Verse 19. So it was, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me after this manner, that his anger was aroused. When his master heard the story his wife told him, saying, This is how your slave treated me, he burned with anger. Now it came about, when his master heard his wife's report that she spoke to him, saying, Your slave did such things to me, that his wrath burned. Okay? Vayehi kishmoa Adanav et divrei ishto asher dibra elav le'emor, saying, Kadavarim ha'ele asali avdecha vayichar apo. I am kind of wondering why that asah has an aspirated hey. No, that's only Bible Hub has an aspirated hey there. I think that's a mistake. Chabad does not have an aspirated hey there. And yeah, neither does Sefaria. So I'm guessing that may be a mistake in the... So the most people use the excuse me, Westminster Leningrad Codex, and what that means is it's the Westminster is a theological school in the United States, which created an electronic version of the Leninberg Codex, which is the oldest codex, complete codex we have of the entire Masoretic text. There is very little difference between the various versions of the Masoretic text, but I think sometimes the Leninberg Codex is not precisely what we actually use in synagogues today, because there's been halachic discussions, and yes, it is a halachic question. How exactly you pronounce each and every word, especially there are certain parshas which it is considered not just a rabbinic injunction, but a Torah injunction to hear those ones. And for those we are particularly careful with. And I have to wonder if this is a difference between how we halachically um, vocalize things and how the Westminster Codex has it, because obviously we don't necessarily go with the Westminster Codex every single time. Where I mean, the Lenenberg Codex every single time. Although I think the WLC is a precise, exact replica of that, so that might show why there's like a dagesh there and not in the Jewish versions. So, hope that helped somehow. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that would be an aspirated hey. I don't know how you would even translate that if it was an aspirated hey. Asahli. I guess you could maybe say his. No. Her doing. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. If there is a dagesh there in the Lenenberg Codex, I think it must be a mistake. Avdecha, your servant, second person masculine singular. Vayichar apo. So, however you want to translate this, charon af. So, af literally means nostrils, and charon, it means inflaming. So I always think when we talk about charon af, I always think of flared nostrils, but I guess it could also be irritated nostrils or inflamed nostrils. But it sometimes just vayichar, sometimes just af. Both of them refer to anger, and charonaf is the more complete thing of anger. So, however you want to translate veyichar apo, I would say the literal translation there would be, and his nose flared. Okay, verse 20. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, so Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were imprisoned, and he was there in the prison. Okay. Vayikach Adonai Yosef. Now that's really interesting because that's definitely plural. Adonai Yosef. Huh. Oto vayitnehu el beit hasohar makom asher asirei hamelech asurim veyehi sham babayit hasohar. In modern Hebrew, prison is Beit Kele, and I think in Rabbinic Hebrew. But Vayikach, and the masters of Joseph, and this is definitely in the plural, so not sure why. I mean, everybody's translating it in singular, but the vocalization is definitely in the plural. Everybody's translating it in singular. So the master, I would say masters. I mean, if I'm translating it, I'm translating in masters. Yosef, Oto, this is the direct object marker. Ben says, I don't trust the Leningrad. Well, I don't trust it more than I trust halacha, that's for sure. But honestly, I mean, there's so little difference. If somebody wants to go, even if you want to use a version of the Dead Sea Scrolls, I mean, I think you're silly if you want to use the Samaritan Scrolls. But if you want to use something else out of all of the things that exist, as long as it's not the Septuagint. I'm sorry, but the Septuagint is just bad. If you want to use any version of the Hebrew we have, even before, whatever you want to use, the differences between them are so tiny. I'm not even going to make an issue. I have never argued with someone over it because I'm like, okay, whatever you want. Now, tell me how your version of the Hebrew is different. And maybe before the Dead Sea Scrolls, I'm sorry, I have to take this call. I will be right back. Very sorry about that, but I had to take that phone call. Okay, so we were talking about the Leningrad Codex. Yeah, I see no reason to even bother with it, Okay, so where were we? And took the masters of Joseph, right? Him. Vayitnehu, and they set him, they put him, they gave him, right? I would probably put set, or put is fine. I mean, vayiten can be to set or to put. El, preposition of the Aleph, Beit HaSohar, the house of Sohar. So, same as Sahar. How many times does this show up? 8 times. And like 6 of them are in this one chapter. Let me see where Sahar shows up. Song of Songs 7:2. Unused word. Bowl of roundness, meaning round. I don't know how they know it means round. A dungeon as surrounded by walls. Not sure why they are so sure that is but perhaps an Egyptian word Hebraized. Compare in Hastings, and so it may be a loan word from the Egyptian. Okay. So Beit HaSohar, the house of Sohar, whatever Sohar is. Makom Asher Asirei Hamelech. So this is one of the places where there is a difference between the Katuv and the Kri. When we read the Bible, we read it in a way that makes sense. But when we write the Bible, we write it precisely as we have before. And depending on who you ask, if you were to ask a secular scholar, they will say that this is because spelling mistakes were introduced into the text over the years, and Asure, the Vav and Yod look very, very similar in Hebrew. They're barely different from each other, and it is conceivable that somebody, instead of writing Asire, may have written Asure, but we still read it Asire. And the Masoretes, the traditional scribes, never corrected things, never made changes just because they thought they should. So we say asire, right? So asar, aleph samech resh, is to bind. It can also mean to forbid. So isur and heter is a very common way we speak of allowing or and forbidding, or binding and loosening in Hebrew. And apparently Jesus used similar words when he was in when he was talking. So yeah, it's a common way of speaking about things in Hebrew. Not really sure how many times asar shows up in the Bible. Quite a few, it seems. 70 times. Bind, fast, gird, harness, hold, keep, make ready. A primitive root to yoke or hitch, by analogy to fasten in any sense. To join battle. I did not know this. Join battle. I don't remember where that would be even. I don't know that it's used for battle in the Bible. My Lateris has hay with no markings. Okay, so theirs is also not doesn't have a dagesh, so it's not aspirated. Yeah, not sure where it's used as join battle, but apparently they're claiming it is. Okay, so Asirei Hamelech, those who have been bound or captured, I guess, prisoners of the king. Asurim were confined, and using the same language over and over again, right? Asirei Hamelach Asurim is a very common thing to do in Semitic languages. Again, part of the poetic repetition and alliteration. Veyehi Sham Beit HaSohar, and he was there in the house of Sohar. And in the Hebrew, it really seems to me like they are using the word asur, right, to be bound, to explain the word sohar, Beit HaSohar, that what that word means. So this actually kind of indicates to me that it may in fact have been an Egyptian loan word. Does Rashi say anything? He does not say anything. So, okay, verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor, or caused him to be viewed with favor by, in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. The Lord was with Joseph, and he extended charisma to him, and he gave him favor in the eyes of the warden of the prison. Okay. Vayehi havaya et Yosef, vayet elav chased, interesting, vayiten chino be'enei sar beit hasohar. Really interesting. Okay. So, and God was with Joseph. This is the preposition, not the direct object marker. Vayet. So, lintoa can mean to plant or to stretch. It's often used of a tent. To pitch a tent is netiat ohel. Um, so extended actually would probably be how I would translate this. Elav with the aleph. Chesed. So chesed is usually translated as loving kindness. Um, Mercy is fine. Chesed turns into chesed here because of the cantillation marks. This is basically there's a comma here, so that's why why chesed turns into chesed. Vayiten chino, and gave him chen, right? Uh, so when we were talking about yofi before, I said sheker hayofi, and actually no, it's sheker hachen vehevel hayofi. So false is chen, however you want to translate chen, oftentimes translated as grace actually. Favor is good, and vehevel hayofi, and fleeting is beauty. So, yeah, Vayiten chino, and gave his favor, grace. How? Not sure how you want to do it. Be'ene sar beit hasohar. So this is a long construct chain. The article goes on the last term as normal. So prepositional bet, and then we have a 4-word construct chain. Einayim is eyes. Sar is prince or chieftain, or however you want to translate Sar, a leader. Sometimes translated as prince. Beit HaSohar, house of Sohar. So, yep. Okay. Verse 22. We're almost done. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. So he became a favorite. So the warden of the prison delivered all the prisoners who were in the prison into Joseph's hand. And whatever they did there, he was the one who did it. Ben says, maybe sometimes, because sometimes Hebrew words of similar meaning are paired and in a verse. Similar meaning, yes, words of similar meaning are sometimes paired in a verse. That's definitely true. Yeah. So chen and yofi, I would generally say probably are similar in meaning, and they are, well, I mean, chen and chesed, I think possibly are used in the same sentence there, because it's where were we? Because they sound similar, right? Chesed and chen can be an alliteration. The noun prison comes from asar also. Yeah, so I think asar and sohar are connected. I think possibly it seems to me that the verse may be clarifying the word sohar, which seems a little foreign to the Hebrew to me, and kind of making a connection. And the Bible does this. Words that may be, in fact, for example, the name Moshe, right? Obviously, it's actually an Egyptian word, Masas, right? It's actually an Egyptian name that the daughter of Pharaoh gave him, but The Bible will sometimes give a Hebrew casting of the word. And I don't think it's necessarily telling us that, yes, that's actually where the word came from, but kind of making a relationship and explaining it. Um, at least that's how it seems to me. Okay. So where were we? So the warden of the prison delivered all the prisoners who were in the prison into Joseph's hand, and whatever they did there, he was the one who did it. So let's see. Vayiten sar beit hasoar beyad Yosef et kol ha'asirim asher bebeit hasohar ve'et kol asher osim sham hu haya oseh. Notice the alliteration here. This is a very poetic alliterative text. I'll read it one more time. Notice all the alliteration. Vayiten sar beit hasohar beyad Yosef et kol ha'asirim asher bebeit hasohar ve'et kol asher osim sham hu haya oseh. And so, yeah, I don't know how you translate something like that. The wording seems to me to be deliberately alliterative here. Okay, so the Sar Beit Hasor, right? The keeper, however you're translating Sar, right? Set in the hand of Yosef et kol ha'asirim. All of the prisoners, all of the people who are bound, I guess. Asher bebeit hasohar, who are in the prison, Beit hasohar, ve'et kol asher osim sham, and everything that they were doing or was done, right? Asher osim sham, there, hu haya oseh. He was the one who does it. Hey, Skyfire! Don't tell anybody, but Skyfire is about to have a bar mitzvah, so he should be learning this stuff better than the rest of us. Okay. Osim sham hu haya oseh. He was the one who did it. Yep. Okay. I believe this is the last verse. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's, his hand, authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. The warden of the prison did not inspect anything that was in Joseph's hand, for the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper. Ein sar beit hasohar ro'e et kol me'uma beyado, ba'asher havaya ito, va'asher hu oseh havaya matzliach. Okay, so interesting way of putting it. Ein sar beit hasohar ro'e. So however sar beit hasohar you've been translating until now, right, did not see. I guess you could say oversee, but it's just saying he didn't see. Et kol me'uma beyado. So we had me'uma earlier in this chapter. It usually means nothing. Here it kind of means anything at all. Like, yeah, so anything. Et kol me'uma. That's a interesting way of putting it. Beyado, in his hand. Ba'asher havaya. So that's also an interesting way of putting it. In that the tetragrammaton, the Lord, ito was with him. It's not the preposition. This is the, this is not the direct object marker. This is preposition ito. Va'asher hu oseh havaya matzliach. And what he does, and it's in the present tense, havaya matzliach, so the Lord would cause to prosper, again in the present tense, matzliach. And there is a setuma, so that samech punctuation tells you that in the scroll there is a break. There are two types of breaks in the scroll. Traditionally, there are open breaks and closed breaks. Open breaks are breaks in the margins. So when you're looking at the columns, open breaks you can see in the columns, whereas closed breaks are within the columns, and there are letters straight down the columns in the scroll. Okay, and oftentimes chapter endings are either at a closed break is considered a more minor break than an open break. Okay, if anybody has questions, comments, anything, please do let me know. Otherwise, we always finish with Tzefania 3:9. Ki az epoch el amim safa berra likro chulam b'shem havaya le'ovdo shchem echad. For then I will restore to the peoples a winnowed language, a pure language, likro chulam, so that all of them may call b'shem havaya, in the name of the Tetragrammaton, le'ovdo, to serve him, shchem echad, with one accord, with one shoulder. Okay. Gonna see if there's anything on the Discord. I'm gonna hang around another 10 minutes or so if anybody's interested in asking a question or whatever. But otherwise, have you looked at Sephania 3:8? Every Hebrew letter is used and all five sophites. I did not know that. Let me look at it. Sephania 3:8. Actually, I think somebody once mentioned that to me. Lachen chaku li ne'um havaya liyom kumi la'ad ki mishpati le'esof goyim lekaptzi mamlachot alehem za'ami. Interesting. Kol charon api ki be'esh kinati ta'achal kol haaretz. Now I know why it's not a commonly cited verse. Lachen, therefore, chaku, command form of to wait or to look forward to, mechake, li, so wait for me or await for me, I guess, maybe. Yeah, it's not used so many times in the Bible. Impediment in speech. Long tarry. So, one of the 13 principles of faith is waiting for the coming of the Mashiach. It says, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema be'biyat HaMashiach, in the coming of the Messiah. Va'af al pi sheyitmamea, and despite that it may take long, af al pi sheyitmamea bechol yom achake lo bechol yom sheyavo. I await him, right? So that's the achake. Yeah, actually, so it actually shows it seems it's from Habakkuk 2:3. Ki od chazon lamoed v'yafech leketz v'lo yechazev im yitmamea chake lo ki vo yavo lo ya'acher. So it says wait, right? Chakuli ne'um havaya, usually translated as so says the Lord. Liyom kumi, to the day that I rise up. La'ad, for plunder. La'ad I usually translate forever. Ki mishpati, because it is my judgment, my determination. Okay. I mean, it comes from the root shofet, to judge. Esof goyim, so to gather. Asifa, right, is to gather like grain. The nations, or nations, not the nations. It doesn't say hagoyim, it says goyim, nations. So there's no article in the Hebrew. Lekovtsi, that's the same word as kibbutz, also to gather or assemble. Lekovtsi mamlachot, in my gathering of kingdoms or nations. Lishpoch alehem za'ami, to pour upon them, with the ayin, za'ami, my, well, they're saying indignation. blame. Arabic onomatopoetic of roar of a camel, angry speech. Huh. Indignation in speech, denounce, curse, abhor, abominable, be angry, define. To foam at the mouth, to be enraged. Yeah. Not good. Kol charon api, all of, and we discussed charon af, right? So it's the flaring of the nostril. All of my charon af, all of my anger, my wrath. Ki be'esh kinati te'achel kol haaretz. Yuck. So esh is in construct with kina. In the fire of my jealousy or zealousness, kina be'esh kinati te'achel kol haaretz, will be devoured the entire earth. Lo aleinu. Az epoch elamim. Wow. Ouch. So we have a rule in regarding prophecy, like we see in the book of Jonah, that prophecies of doom and destruction do not necessarily come true if we repent of our sins. And we see that because Jonah comes and foretells the destruction of the city, but the people repent, and it is not destroyed. And Jonah says, "I knew that you are kel rachum v'hanun, erech hapayim v'chesed v'emet." Hashem Yachem. Yeah, I don't know what Eshkina means. Rashi seems to also see Haaretz, the land, as specifically talking about Israel. The Katav Haradak, this is the Abarbanel. I was wondering, Rashi doesn't usually... okay, so this is the Abarbanel. Shahayom hazeh that this is Gog and Magog. Shekom hakel yitbarach la'ad klomar l'shlol shalal derech ad ve'ani kavar hodaticha pamim rabot דעתי בעניין גון להילחם על ישראל ולא אמר על זה ליום קומי לעד, אבל עניינו שבזמן הגאולה העתידה יעלו הנוצרים ממלכות אדום הרשע ארץ ישראל לכובשה ויבואו עליהם מן המזרח ומן הצפון אוכלוסין. ישמעאל Eek. Okay, well, the Abarbanel is saying not nice things. The Ibn Ezra says that the reason it says my kin'ah, my jealousy, is because of the people who are idolaters. Yeah, I mean, Ben says, I like how 3:8 has all the letters and sophites, and 3:9 mentions the restoration of the pure speech, but Lishpoch alehem za'ami v'kol charon api ki be'esh kin'ati te'achel kol haaretz. That's So the Minchat Shai also mentions that it's written in the Mikra Gedolah. I don't know what the Mikra Gedolah is. Regarding this passage, that it is one of the few verses in the Bible that has the alphabet. V'hadin yater alehem otiot kefulot, and it also has what are called the double letters, mem, nun, tzadik, pe, and chaf, which are which are the ones that have what you call it. Let me see if I can. Oh wow, it's from the time of the Rishonim. Minchat Shai is a Masoretic commentary by Yedidia Solomon ben Abraham Norzi. It includes grammatical treatises on Tanakh, noting all variant readings scattered through Talmudic and Midrashic literature. 1526. I'm going to stick around another 10 minutes or so. Okay.